Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we are decompiling Streets of Rage 2 for the Sega Game Gear. Excellent soundtrack by Yuzo Koshiro. Just as good as the Genesis version, maybe? I don't know. I don't know if you could go that far, but it actually is pretty good as well. Of course, we're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. As usual, you can find more about the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project by going to soten.z.dev. You'll find the progress to all the overlays that we've been working on. Quite a few of them now. You can also find a link to GitHub. That will take you to all the source code that we've decompiled for you to peruse at your leisure, including the Maria mod, which we talked about quite a bit on this channel. Go look up the Maria PS1 mod if you're not familiar with it. You'll find different graphs here as well. More and more of these are becoming inaccessible. I wonder what's going on with that. That's not ideal. Maybe it's something we could look into. I'm not the owner of this project. I'm not the leader of this project. I am just a contributor. You'll find a link to Discord there, and we've been talking about something that I think is super exciting. I'm actually super envious as well. Let me find the right tab over here. Actually, first I'm gonna bring up this tab. One of the things that I think is awesome about the PlayStation 1 SDK is that it includes kind of this micro libc that looks a lot like a libc that you'd find in any environment. And so with all the libc stuff, you have a sprintf, printf function, things like that. And along with memmove, memcopy, things, other things that are part of the POSIX C standard. And I thought it would be awesome to be able to not just decompile this, but it's a function where there are a multitude of different implementations. And from what I could tell, and what I know now, this one seemed to be completely unique. And there probably is another sprintf, maybe, implementation that we're gonna find later as well. So I did my best. I got to about 80%. This was pretty early on when I was decompiling. I didn't know what I didn't know. And then I kept some tabs open with like the NetBSD version and the FreeBSD version and all these other old versions of sprintf from around that time period. But I couldn't get it any further than this. And so I kind of put it on a shelf and didn't think about it. Every few months, I would think, I'll get back to that at some point. And I never did. And what happens when you don't get back to something? Somebody else does it. Super excited. Project Oblivion, Gamester81 came together, solved sprintf. There's a couple things that are interesting here. Going through it, it's really difficult to know if this makes a huge difference or not. We do this not quite a bit. On the PlayStation versions, they're optimized. We can't always get registers to work the way we want them to. And so sometimes we'll throw do while loops in just to trick the compiler into a behavior that we want. And that seemed to be necessary here. So there's these casts that have to happen. If you're not familiar with printf, you get a format string, and depending on the characters in that string, you treat things one way or another. There might be modifiers in there. Where's the short modifier? So yeah, if you use the H character before I or D, or before F, it's going to treat it as a 16-bit value as opposed to a 32-bit value. Long story short, some of those do whiles were necessary here. I haven't seen any more chatter about this. I'm hoping that this was my contribution. I don't know, but I originally this was written like this, and I think this will get to 10 remaining. Oh, what's going on? Oh, did I? Let me refresh this. I have some edits here that probably are an issue. I think that last night, before I went to bed, the way that I was working on it was like this. No, not quite. At some point, though, I figured the is-long checks, which don't actually do anything differently. That's the way it was. It was like this. This should get us 10 different, yeah, 10. And so I added those, but what was missing? There was another section up here that was missing, so it still didn't work out perfectly. There's another do while up here somewhere, related to precision, I think, or leading characters. I don't remember specifically. Anyway, I added the is-long check here because that's the N character. Hey, Romy. Good to have you. The N character reads a pointer from the var args, and then based on what's about to be, reads a pointer and then stores the number of characters that have been written so far into the pointer in that var arg. Oh, roaming worked on this as well. All right. Nice team effort. Good to have you entropy gravity well. Well, super excited about that. There are some things that still I did actually get this building, but I will let Project Oblivion, whoever Gamester, whoever wants it, can check it in. So these extern char arrays, those are actually inline. The one thing that I did think and was wrong about was this, where is that assignment? This assignment here. I thought that this was also going to be inline and end up being read-only data because it's initialized to 0. And so GCC will pull this out. It treats it as a string of the size of this config struct. And so it pulls it out into RO data. But this wasn't in RO data. It wasn't just in data. And so there actually is a static, not const, because if it was const, it would go into RO data, struct initialized to all zeros, that is being assigned, and you get the struct assignment there. Anyway, pretty cool. In the family stuff there is the updated data as well for whoever ends up integrating that. And it compiles and works great. So that's pretty sweet. All right. What else was I gonna... I had a list of things that I wanted to do. And now I don't see that list. So let's keep going. We've been working on Richter and finding some of the functions there. There's one function left there that we know the name of. I don't think it's going to give us any additional symbol names. So we can get it done quick. The other thing, though, that I want to do, and I think is slightly more important, is to dedupe all of the shared stage code. And so I might spend, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes doing that, because I really would like, oh, what branch am I on here? I really would like to get the just the skeleton of this checked in. Oh, I'm in RTOP and still have RTOP stuff to work on. So let's check that out and try to get as many of those finished as possible in 10 or 15 minutes, and then we can work on more exciting stuff. Let's go. All right, so we'll look at the splat config for VO6. This is similar to how RTOP was done. I do want to figure out some of the issues that I was seeing before with like blipchar potentially being in the middle of ecollect, or whether or not those are actually the same function or they're out of order. Thank you. Appreciate you roaming. But let's start with stdebug and go from there. So because we have so many of these that are done already, we actually have most of the RO data, which is the hard part. I'm going to look at... oh, we don't have stdebug in VO4. I like to look at similar overlays and not rethink about this every time. We don't have a specific stdebug segment anywhere else. That seems wrong. Let's look for stdebug.h. Maybe it's embedded in something else. So, was stdebug renamed to something else? Let's look at what functions are there and see where those are now. There has been some refactoring for certain things. This was created back in April, these splits, so it's possible. Oh yeah, this should be called eVroom background. And I just actually spent a long time refactoring this. So we will rename that. And so when I'm doing these, I look for those splits. I want to see, is there a data segment, an RO data segment, a BSS segment? If there's not, it's actually pretty easy to do. We'll rename that. We'll move this to the correct name. And all of these effectively just include an eRoom BG header, unless there's something special about it. Hey, Scribble Lurker. Appreciate it. Happy to have you lurk. Possibly STD feature? No, it's eRoom background. We have this basically it's in every stage. There's 3 variations of how this is implemented primarily. It's going to be in ST because bosses are stages, but they're in a different directory, and we put all our shared headers here. So whether or not this has the facing left fix, hey Mozilla, it's going pretty good. And then whether or not, so this is all related to the facing left fix, and then there's this background scale. And my guess is that this is going to be the same as the Richter implementation, or not the Richter, the Castle Keep implementation. So we'll look at that one and see if we can leverage that. The other thing is we're going to need some symbols mapped here that we don't have mapped yet, but those will be easy to find as well. So we're actually not going to use decomp.me for this and just assume that all of this works fine. We do have a little bit of data here. So it's not quite right to say it doesn't have any data. The other config that I looked at probably just doesn't have it mapped yet. Top and RTOP, I didn't map any of the data for. So by default, we're going to use this bugged version of unknown 5a equals facing left, and we're not going to use any scale. So we're going to take that version of that. We have to go all the way back up and then go back down to ST to grab that header file. We do need the B06 header. And then what else do we need? We need to look at this and find what symbols these are. And that should be pretty easy to grab as well. So we're looking at boss, B06, non-matchings, E-room. We haven't rebuilt, so these are still going to be in STDebug. And we have our B06 entity background block. So we have two global references. And those are going to be the addresses to the two things we need. Which one is which? This 3E8 variable is going into the A0 register. A0 is used for argument. The first argument to a function. What function? Initialize entity. There's a jump and link instruction, which jumps to that instruction. It gets its arguments from the A registers. So we know that this address is the same as G einit common. We'll add that. That's actually a very good symbol to have, and it's used a lot of places. So happy to have that one. That has, they're kind of generic initialization options for a entity, and it's things that are not interactable typically. So things that show up on the screen, and the behaviors created by the function, and this just has a bunch of default things for entities that don't need any custom behavior. All right, so we have that one, and then the other one is, we only have one other global, which is this 4E8, and that's going to be our space. Background block init array, and that will be OVL exported. All right, so we have both of those. We do need to grab oh no, we don't need the declarations. We should just be able to include this. So we're missing data. We could go find that data. And that would put us in a slightly better place, but my hope is that this just works. Make Rocket go now. We'll see. A lot to recompile. That happens when you rebase sometimes. While this is going, I noticed that there was a warning from the Splat config. You can go look at that. It's about the GDOP. Oh, I still have some symbols in there that may or may not still be necessary. That's fine. Oh, we broke something somewhere. Oh, I moved this to the wrong place. Should have been .c. Ah, drat. Oh well. Not a big deal. So we're gonna add this. Let's grab the .h. The .h was a mistake. Let's try again. Undefined reference to entity background block. I thought I added that. No, and just init. Oh, I need to correctly name this. Should have OBL export. Fatal error bo6.h is missing. Do we not have a bo6.h yet? No, that's there. Let's try again. Oh, duh. When you use the angle brackets for your include, it checks the include path and it explicitly does not include your current directory. Easy mistake to make. And this might not work, and we'll go to decomp.me if it doesn't. All the symbols should be there, but yeah, it does work. Any of these stage-related functions, I'm going to assume are going to be the same as top or castle keep. And I'll go with that assumption until it fails me. So E-room background is done. Let's look at castle keep, because that's probably better than BO4. So there should be RO data for ELOC camera. We're gonna have to go find that. Right now it's associated with cutscene. RO data for E breakable. We don't have that mapped yet either. So let's go. ELOC camera is a pain, but hopefully it's the same as Richter, or sorry, Castle Keep mixing up the two. So source boss, BO6, ELOC camera. ELOC camera is a pain in general because it's different for every stage. Because this is a boss, maybe we get the same function. We're missing a function here. We don't have players with a hitbox. I don't think the throne room scrolls. Mozilla's on the line. He might know if the throne room scrolls. Isn't it just static in the middle of the screen? Oh, it must scroll though, because it needs the hallway, and it needs probably at least part of the door on the left, but maybe not. Definitely the hallway, because you walk in and it's going to start loading at some point. So what do we need? We do need this entity lock camera. We need the references to the tile map. What I want to find though before that is player is within hitbox. If that is there, it's not. ELOC camera is right there immediately afterwards. So different. Besides reading the assembly, the other much easier, admittedly, way of doing this is to grab the assembly, throw it into decomp.me, and let that tell you what the addresses are. And so we're going to do that for this one. When there's more than a few things, that I find that easier. So we'll go to decomp.me, throw our assembly in there. Entity lock camera is going to be an entity. So we know its signature, and that'll give us a slightly better decomp. I think we have the function already though, so I don't think we're gonna need much here. We'll see. It could be different. So I'm gonna go back to Richter. I'm gonna not Richter, Castle Keep. Going to take all this and copy it. We're going to need some global declarations. We'll figure those out though. I'm going to grab those from the top of that file in top. We want to make as many of those extern as possible. All of them, actually, because none of them are being declared here. We don't want them as part of the compilation unit, creating segments that we don't want. Should get us compiling. Not the same at all. All right, so that's something. It's a good thing that I started here. So we have a very different implementation. So we're gonna have some of the same things. We don't have nice symbols, but we'll go figure out what those are. So let's start this. So like I said, entity lock camera is very different for every stage, and this one appears to be no different. So we'll just get started and see what's going on. We have a really broken looking switch here. We'll go through and figure that out, but this is what GCC does when it doesn't create a jump table. Gross. This brings up a something else that's going on. This is going to be our ENet lock camera. Let's look at our failures, see what we're missing here. I reached out to, this is going to be part of our tile map. Let me see where gtile map is over here. I reached out to Hexrays several months ago to see if they would spot me a license for IDA, a version of IDA. It could be the hobbyist one. I don't care. It just needs their MIPS decompilers, which are, as far as I can tell, cloud only. And so, is there a way that we can use them, at least on the stream, to look at this and then compare that to the M2C output that we're currently getting? And oh, this is really backwards. I'm gonna go back here for 1 second. No, I'm gonna stay here. And so back in June, actually, they got back to me, and I missed it. And I've searched actually a couple times to see if they ever emailed me back. But anyway, I missed it. I think we're here. But I just got an email from them yesterday. And there may or may not be something happening with that. It'd be neat if there was. I've downloaded the free version of IDA, but honestly, it didn't do what I needed it to do. So I didn't use it. This is going to be a unsigned 16 pointer. It's a pointer to this entity lock camera tile map props. 52. So I'm going to get this compiling and then we'll start refactoring it. So what I really want to know, I think, about IDA Pro, put the symbols in the array. How does it compare to M2C? From my experience, M2C produces significantly better decompiled code than Ghidra does. Ghidra's actually kind of unreadable. And it fails in places that M2C doesn't have any problems. So we know what these are actually. 530 is going to be the hitbox. And then 538 is going to be data. So where does IDA fall into that? Is it any better? And then what does the workflow look like? So Roaming was talking about object diff. How easy would integrating object diff, for example, be with IDA? Is a plugin easy enough to write? And then we could get a REPL with IDA. I don't know if any of that is possible. We have one more incomplete type somewhere. Two more. 47. So these are all going to be array access. Anyway, so if they can do something like that, or we can find ways to do that, great. If we can't, no worse off. This is wrong. I know this is wrong. I just want to get this compiling, and then we'll keep going. This is strange, and it might be something that M2C is hallucinating. It's possible that there's something else going on. It's odd. These are, as far as I can tell, they're equivalent. All right, but we'll get to the refactor first, and then we'll do this. So typically what we have in any of these entity methods, functions, methods are for objects. And does this one have it? This one doesn't have it either. Usually there is a switch, and switches are common when you're building state machines. They make it pretty obvious where what state you are for that particular entity, what code you're going to execute. This one does not make that obvious, and so it either is specific checks, or it's just the way GCC optimized it. I'm going to assume that GCC optimized this switch away into all these checks, because some of these are just so bizarre. These maybe not so bizarre. We'll see. we'll keep going and see. So if step equals 0, we're actually going down here and grabbing all of this and executing that code. And it actually returns. It might be a break. And do we have temp S1 anywhere in there? We do have it one place. So we can pull out params early. And we'll call temp S1 params. Yeah, 35 definitely looks like a switch to me as well. The problem, though, is what's left here? Default. Nothing else. So we could return here. You say return and then you type break. Ever have that problem? I can put an else here, but these actually do exactly the same thing, which is crazy. And I broke something terribly on line 36. Where did I go wrong? First error before, so I'm going to revert as much of this as I can, figure out where my mistake was made. Oh, long ago. Oh, duh, case. When you program in too many languages, you don't know what the keywords are in the language that you want to be programming in. Oh, thank you. Yeah, they do. Thank you, Dig Down Deep. So I'm less keen on this being a switch now that I'm getting into it. I do think params is a switch. I don't think this is, though. This could be an else here. I'm going to go with the early return. I do think that this is an else here. We have a entity extension for the camera. We'll go down and look at that. Looks like it probably is unknown 7C. You're on 48. Hitbox state. Are we setting that? Does not look like it. So let's just grab this line. Temp S1 is our params. We will go through that up here so we have access to it. And then I'm going to need that var S2. And what was var S3 in this original one? It was params. Making a mess. We need our var S2. Var S2 in tops was a unsigned 16. And how is our top section looking? Not the best, not the best. Let's change this to an else and see if we're doing any better. So we already have this So we're not getting this pulled down to the bottom like I'd want. So that may be an issue. Sometimes GCC will reorder these. In this case, it doesn't look like it is. We can flip this back. I guess no harm in doing that. At home, I say, it couldn't hurt. And then I say, ouch. When the kids were young, that was funnier than probably is on stream. All right, so this assignment looks like it's happening not in this order. I might go through and poke around a little bit at other versions of this and see if we have something similar. The temp v05, I think that was this var s2, and that might help us. The other things that we can do, I'll keep going on this one a little bit and try to get it done this way, but another option is to grab the PSP version. We don't need to do that quite yet, though. All right, so this is likely our switch. And it's on params, and it's looking at all the params. Params is an entity-specific field. How it's used, basically it's used for flags, but sometimes there's data. It's 16 bits. We don't get to choose how it's used. We just have to abide by what's being done with it. So let's try to work these out. If temp v1 is greater than 4, greater or equal to 4, if it's greater or equal to 6, but not equal to 6, we're going to do all of this stuff. I really wanted that to be a switch, but we have too many. Oh, so we can do case 0, case 1, case 2, case 3, and these are all breaks. So case 4, we're going to go down to this tile map. Come on, formatting, do your thing. If it was, that's case 5 as well. Case 6, we're going to do all this logic. We can invert this. Temp v1. Yeah, that's our default. Our default is break. We don't need to specify it. We return, so that's fine too. And then, is that it? I think that's it. That wasn't too bad. What does it look like? Does it look like what we think? A little different. Okay, so none of these actually need to be specified because we're just breaking and they fall into the default case. Good. Oh, this looks like it actually is a thing. So we're going to 1A4 instead of 19C. That's just the return. That's fine. They're different because the stack is different. No big deal. All this lines... Oh my goodness. It worked the first time. I never understand the meaning of get side to player. I think it means like, are we to the left of the player? I don't know if this is like a Italianism or or some other maybe just a Xynomoism. For non-native English speakers is to and of. Is that something that gets mixed up? I don't know. So I'm going to call temp v0 facing. No, it's more like a side. Yeah. How does it know what to check against? So there is a global. This is the joy of old C programs. Roaming saying, how does it know what to check against? There is a global called G current entity, and there's also the global player. And so let's go look at that, how that function's implemented, and cry about the global state. Player, current entity. I'm pretty sure that current entity is set in DRA. So DRA has the list of entities, and basically it goes through and does the lookup of what the function is to update those entities, and basically just keeps calling that for all of the currently active entities. I'm pretty sure it sets that before calling each one, but we could look for that as well. This is when it would be nice to have an IDE that can do these kind of things for us, but it's fine. Oh, it doesn't. What is this done in one of the stage methods, stage functions? Oh, it's done in ST update. Is that where we are? No, we're in ST common. Yeah, so here, okay, this is the update func. This is called by DRA. And so that's how that works. Global state, yay. There must be times where this function doesn't have enough context to know what the current entity. It should always know what the player is. And so, I mean, because the player is already a global, they think, oh, we don't need to pass that. But why can't it pass self? There are functions to figure out what side of self you're on. Why are they duplicated? I don't know. One of the things that I often think about is, would it be nice to have an optimized SOTN with all these things fixed? And what would that even look like? And you'd have to try as hard as possible to not introduce any behavioral changes. And that would just all be a pain. So I'm going to take this same logic here and try to use that. So we're grabbing the camera tile properties, throwing it into a pointer, and then using that pointer to get various data further down. I think that's what's happening here. And so I'm going to keep doing that. That actually, so we have our get side to player code up here as well. And the PSP has informed us that this is a mask and then a multiplication, as opposed to doing both operations on the same line. So we'll do that as well. So var v1, these are being manipulated inline, so we're going to get rid of that variable. And this is clock camera unknown. Let's see. All right, and then we don't have this one is conditional only if the side of the player and whatever this calculation is doing, only then if it matches that other field will it do something. We don't have that same logic here. So we're just going to move right into grabbing the data from that. We're going to call temp v0 data pointer. That is the convention. And we're using a variable called var s3. And calculating the index first. So we have, where was var s3 set? Oh, var s3 is params. All right, so params equals itself, shifted over by 3. M2C looked at that and thought it was a times 8. That's fine. Plus side of player. And then we're using that as the index here. The times 2 here is because our stride is 2 bytes, and M2C doesn't know those kind of things. And that collapsed all that pretty well. We have some register issues up here. I'm not concerned with those yet. All right, so we have our data pointer, temp v0 is we're already, we can increment the pointer here. I think what's happening is actually we are doing that. I'm going to do a plus plus. It was doing a 32-bit write, but really we have two 16-bit writes, and that looks fine. And then we're going to use that here as well. Oh, it's doing a 32-bit read there. So maybe I was wrong. Checking the offsets. Those are all fine so far. So yeah, that's right. This one is wrong. And I think we'll just keep going down and get rid of a bunch of these variables as well. And yeah, all that tightens up real nice. Very nice. All right, so we have one extra variable on the stack, 65. There's some issue there. These are probably a different order. Yeah, that works too. So let's find our rogue variable. This one. Maybe not that one. Looks like it's params. Yep, that looks like that worked as well. So we have a lot of immediate differences. If there's no register differences, okay, so we're not quite done yet. There are some register differences. Let's try. Let's try doing this all at once. And maybe avoid the move. That didn't work. I might have the wrong type. It was no better. Let me get rid of these other ones first, and then we'll come back to that. So we got rid of most of those. I have some bad names in here. So there's a reference in this other one. There's a reference to the tile map, which we don't have. I see. So a bunch of these variables are reused. And so I gave them nice names, but they don't actually have nice names. So I need to go back through and figure out which ones of these. So one of these has to go. And which one is it? Probably var s2. We need var s2 though, because that's params. Var s2 was this guy. We won't need. If we do that, we won't need var s3. Oh, there is no var s3. Hey, Supreme Quetzal, good to have you back. We'll do our plus plus here for fun. All right, what is causing our register updates, or our incorrect registers? So we end up using the A0 register. If there's no function calls, GCC will use A0 because nothing else is going to use it. But we're moving V0 into A0 for no good reason. And let me go back. I'm looking at the top version of this. We're following relatively the same pattern here. We have this condition which doesn't exist in the other one. It's possible that params is not getting updated here and that this is happening inline. Let's try that. Or that this is var s2. Let's try var s2 here. No better. What can we do? So what, thank you. I was just mucking around with some of these variables, switching them out for others. Let's do this actually. Let me make sure that I have these types right. Everything, I have a 32-bit here. These are all signed or unsigned. That helped quite a bit. Looks like 43, I have a wrong instruction. We have... Oh, interesting. So let's do this. Let's switch the order of these. Set of player plus. So GCC knows the range of side of player. And because it's smaller than the shift by 3, it knows that it can do an OR there instead of an add, and the OR may or may not be a less expensive instruction to execute, or may, I mean, on MIPS, I don't know that it really matters. So let's try this. Let's move those into separate lines. Still does the OR. Oi. So how do we... Okay, let's try moving it down. Nope. Yeah, oh, assign to side player, yeah. Oh, we could do a plus equals there. What if we do that? Now, side of player needs to be signed. That compile. Params is usually unsigned. That won't help us. That didn't help either. Oh, actually, that did help. All right, so S registers are usually variables, so it could be 43. I feel like we're getting closer. Oh, just lousy. I tried this already, I think. Just putting them in line. Oh, the joys of strange compiler behavior. So we're very close. Let's make all these signed. And that screws everything up. All right, so what else? What else can we do? We do have this var S2 that's not doing anything. Let's use that. This is going to give me probably the same issue. It doesn't. Crazy. So params it knows. Now let's try one more thing. Did I try this already? Shift equals a 3. And then that gives me the OR. And if I make param signed, fail. Okay. I like the idea of side of player. We could do a couple other things as well. We can try indexing off of param shifted by 3, and then data pointer plus equals side of player. And that should be equivalent. But GCC compiles it differently, of course. What else can we do? So I think we have the right logic here. We're just using the wrong register. Actually, S1. Yeah, we're going to the same place. Yeah, okay. So let's do some spelunking and see if we can find anything that's similar. So, like I said, entity lock camera is different. We only have a few of them. Let's look at the common one. It would be great if this... for some reason I didn't think that there was a common one, but let's look here. Uh-oh. This looks very very similar. And are we just... We have one less variable. So I hate to say it, but we were reinventing the wheel. It was params. Var S0 is our only other one. So let's go back and I guess get rid of side of player. We can do everything with var S2. Is that? And now this will work. No, it didn't work. All right. Time to cheat. Let's see where we were wrong. This looks very similar. All right, so this one did match. There is some spacing differences that are going to make this a little hard to follow. So the hex 10 versus decimal 16, nothing to worry about there. Oops. Trying to flip back and forth between this and see what params equals self params. It's not obvious to me what changed, but what is obvious to me is we don't have to use this function, or we don't have to decompile it. We can use the common one, which is good. So to do this, we will have to map this data, and we will have to make sure that the config is in the right place, which is relatively straightforward to do. So do we have elock camera? We don't have the data for it yet. We have to go find that. We know where it is. It's going to start at the same place as the hitbox. And the hitbox is down here on line 51. So this is the start of the elock camera data. And where's the end of that data? So here's our 20s. And then we have 150 in there. Is that the same? That looks the same. And we have 8 zeros. Okay. And then we have a bunch of things down to 2FC. That looks good too. So then we end at 5B0. And we don't know what this data is. And is there any RO data? There isn't, I don't think. There is. Oh, this was for top. Top is more complicated. We won't have any RO data for ours. So we're going to include the 06. And then we can include, if I did everything right, which I'm not guaranteeing that I did, we will have mostly the right thing. We need to change one small thing. Where's, because this is OVL exported, we need to add a symbol with the correct name. Actually, we just need to update the symbol. So let's find our symbol table. Do I have that open? I don't. And let's build. Camere is the incorrect spelling of camera. Undefined reference to entity lock camera. Did I save this? So that all should be re-exported. We should rebuild all of these. So let's look at, okay, let's, oh, am I, yes, this is the problem. No such file or directory. And what was the name of that file then? I just looked at it. The entity lock camera. That's why we can't have nice things. And we're failing. Why? Because something else went wrong. So we may have this additional data. Or no, that's not correct. I may have the mapping wrong. We might not be producing enough data. Let me use vbindiff. And vbindiff will kind of help identify where the problem is. Object diff roaming, as roaming pointed out yesterday, would help as well. It would be helpful. I could look at the map. Actually, I think I'll do that. I'm going to look at the... Let's do this. E-lock camera is getting its data. I'm going to open... this happens from time to time, and it's good to be able to debug things like this when they happen. So if something is producing either more data or more instructions than are anticipated. So that means I need to figure out which it is. Is it more data or more instructions? And so during the build, Obo6, a map file gets produced. And a map file is going to have all the addresses of all the things that get generated. So I'm going to go down, and we should have a symbol called entity lock camera hitbox, I thought. That is what it's called. But it's static. Drat. I'm going to make that unstatic for my own sanity. Static symbols won't have names in that list. They may have names in the... Actually, they would have names in the elf file. So I could dump the symbols from the elf file, but this is a little easier. All right. So entity lock camera hitbox is at 8018.530. And then we have one at 538 and one at 40. So now we go back over here and say, do those look like the addresses? And I see the one I think that's missing. Yes, it's the entity lock camera. We're not going to have this symbol because I didn't map it. And there should be... when I build, this should have been an error, and I just ignored it. But we had the error. I think if there's a compilation error, the build should fail before doing any checking, because there's no reason to run check if you can't build. And I'm not sure why this doesn't fail earlier. That'd be good to know. So we need to add that symbol. Not a big deal. I'm going to put those statics back. Where am I going? Config symbols.us.bobo6. not static. I need my GNet. So how you debug and figure out, there's a million and one ways for Mac for these builds to fail and not match. It's more likely that it's not going to match than it is going to match. Still doesn't match. Still a big diff. So we'll do it again. Make sure all of the symbols are in the places that we expect them to be. Actually, before I do that, make sure that make again. It's possible that I had a compiler error again and just ignored it again. G init entity lock camera is undeclared. Aren't we declaring it? We're not. How dare we? Why? This happens from time to time, and I'm not a fan of it. And so what I'm going to do actually is put the declaration here in the shared header. The way that I would want to see shared headers is that any declarations that they need are right there. This particular init is going to be in a bunch of stage headers. What good is it there? Nobody uses it except there's two places that use it. One is the init data file that has the list of all of these in the order of indexed by their entity ID. And then something like this file, which is the implementation that uses it. By putting in the stage header, we've exposed that symbol now to all files, and it to me it just seems like noise. Maybe it could go into something like a stage private or something like that. I don't know. I don't like it. I would rather have much fewer shared global definitions and only share the things that really are kind of universal across the stage. That's the way that I do declare. So we're gonna add our declaration here. Not static. It's actually kind of a problem. And we'll talk about that next. Once we're matching, and now we're matching. Okay, why is this a problem? The problem is game.h. And this is what happens if you're not just violently judicious about limiting headers to what they are. Imagine, so people who are programming in modern programming languages, if you're in Rust, for example, or Python, do you import every library that you have on your system? Or do you even import every module that is in your project? Typically not. But that's what we've done here with game.h. Vertex and svec4, how many places are these used in the code? Let's look at vertex. They're used in cell, top, and st0. Cell, top and st0. Actually, they're not used in cell. They're just used in top and st0. These are the same stage, just different implementations of the same stage. They're not actually used in this our portable build stuff. So they're only used in top and st0. And really, they're only used related to the clock tower. But every single file in the game imports those struct definitions. Why? Why would we do that to ourselves? It goes on and on. Draw mode's used everywhere. That's fine. There's a bunch of these macro definitions. gamepad, that's fine. Those are truly global things. The bitmap castle map, where is that used? Nowhere. It is probably BSS of DRA or main. Let's look in ASM. ASM US. I'm guessing DRA or main. We'll see if it's there. It's not even there. Is it really only in the portable? Oh, we're in a macro here, or a conditional compilation. So it looks like it may be in the PSP builds. But again, something that affects every file. And so if you have to modify that or do anything with it, you have to rebuild 1,300 files. This kind of goes on and on and on. This file is at least 2,000 lines long. And there's just so many of this GPU usage. How many files do you think use GPU usage? It's possible that it's in some common stage code. Cell, DRA. That's it. But everybody gets it. Everybody is exposed to it. I don't know. I think it's an issue. I'm trying to fix it. But it'll take a while. Rant over. All right. Sorry. Sometimes things upset me. That's the kind of thing that upsets me. Not the cruel injustices of the world, or poverty, or hunger, global hunger, war, famine. None of those things. It's bloated headers. I kid. All right, so I spent way too much time on elock camera, but elock camera's done now. So let's look at not elock camera. Let's look at, sorry. Let's look at 3914, where we have code that is reasonable. I want to look at the Richter set animation file in Richter. Eventually, I would like to get these split in a way that matches Richter as closely as possible. We got to that point on Doppelganger where we did see file boundaries that were about the same. A lot of code couldn't be shared between Alucard and Doppelganger, but having them close enough made comparisons much easier. So I'm going to find this PL utils, and what I want to see is there's a lot more code here than we currently have. But is it likely that this function right above it is set step? Can we infer that from the assembly? B9928 looks like set step. So we can knock that. Well, I'd have to get the symbol, but let me just make a note here. Why didn't I make this OVL export? All right, so we have this. We'll call it, we'll give it the same function name, even though it'll have to change eventually. But those are the kind that we don't need to go to a decompiler for. And because we have these nice symbols, we're able to get symbol names before doing anything else. So then we have this this other one. Is that the same? I don't know. I'm just going to count. And over here, because I forget. And then we go up one more. So this would be the PL utils boundary. And so what is Richter's, what file comes before that in Richter is PL steps. So let's look at PL steps. Does this have about 3 functions in it? 1, 2, 3. Nope, quite a bit more. So what is this this code before this? I don't know. And maybe it's support code for something else, and these don't actually work the same way. So this is called from OBC, which is not in this file. So it could be that these 3 functions actually should be in the file that comes before this. I think that this split was suggested by Splat, but this other function is up here. Let's. All right, we have one more include ASM that we have a symbol name for. Let's look at that one, and then we'll call it a day. What I'm hoping is that we get a few additional pieces of data here. So we have a bunch of globals, and we'll get symbols for those, which is pretty nice. Nothing too major. G status, actually, we should get. Actually, Richter probably doesn't have hearts. He probably can do whatever he wants. Usually there's like some cooldown logic, possibly, but my guess is that, yeah, there's no like resource management for him. And so we're looking at the let's suck less on this one. Let's do it, self. Right, so our signature is a little complicated. Not terrible. We have a pointer and 2 32-bit values. I'm going to steal that from Richter. Sure that I have sub-weapon def in here. So this actually is the nice thing. This is the other side of the monolithic game.h file. I'm going to completely contradict myself. When you're building a context, you want as many of these definitions as you can get. And that's exactly what you get. So here, probably a mem copy. And we're getting M2C errors because of that. No problem. I think that's mostly it. Bunch of globals. And yeah, like I said, I think we'll get the globals. So here's our failed version. So, like I said, I don't think that there's going to be heart management, but we'll start with the Richter implementation, and I want to do that because I want as many variable names and things like that to be the same. And the reason I want as many variable names to be the same is because then when people are looking at this in the future, it's not just my random choice of name, and it differs from the others. Copying the subweapon def declaration of independence. So we do have some differences here. We'll get to those in a second. The decomp was a bit different. Like I said, all this stuff about parts is going to go away. Not a very good similarity. So this actually might not be the best after all. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff about heart cost that we don't need. Okay, so may not have been the best. G status, we're going to have something similar to that. And that, oh, maybe not though. Maybe not. Nope. When I said let's not suck, I failed. This is, yeah, extremely different. Different to the point of not even being close. That's okay. We'll still figure it out. What I want to do, this symbol up here is likely part of the Richter entity. So we'll have to pull that and see what offset that is in the entity table, or in the entity struct. We have some position information. Let's just start over with all of this. The only thing I'm sure about is this end part here, where we're assigning the updated weapon. So we're going to need a bunch of these. We'll just grab them all, and we're going to have to give them types. We'll just be stupid for now and give them 32-bit types, and then come back and fix them. All right. So the end looks pretty good. It's everything else that's terrible. So varv0 is distance x, the distance between Richter and the player. And we'll change these to struct access. Temp1 is distance y. This probably is using the absolute value built in. Rick, we need. I have doppelganger still in here. Or did I call it dop? No. So Rick is going to be the same as dop. I want to spell it out. I think that I have it in the header already. Yeah, I do. This will be what's in when I export a context in the future. That's what's going to be there. A little surprised at something. Okay, so something is causing this to assume that one of these branches or both of these branches are impossible to take. So we get, but if one is, the other has to be the case, but we're not executing either of them. Oh, and yeah. So what is this? So this is actually, this is going to be grick, and this is going to be pad press for grick. So let's get that in there. I'm not sure yet why, but that's what's happening. So we have a player state, a global player state called grick. And I'll look back here quickly to see if item crash. So our return value down here. I'm going to follow the same pattern as the other version. So regardless of what happens, we're going to be copying the subweapon. And so as we fall down, the way that Doppelganger worked, and I'm assuming that the way Richter is going to work as well, we have a virtual control pad, and that's actually going to be fun later. When we get far enough along, we'll be able to hijack that and put our own control pad in there and control Richter. But until then, what seems to be happening is I see. Vari 3 is never being used here. So all these, I believe, are returns. Well, let's try putting those in, and we'll see if that's the case. If so, they actually kind of need to be inverted, but that's fine. These probably tell the caller like what did what move did Richter decide to do? Yeah, so the sub-weapon assignment doesn't seem to be happening here. And okay, so that's why none of this code was getting generated, because it had no effect. So I think what we'll do is assign var a3 to -1 up here. A3 is kind of an odd register to use for return value. That actually looks a lot better. Let's see where that is being set. Yeah, so eventually we're moving A3 into register 0. Why? I don't know. We have some stack space that we need to allocate that we're not currently allocating. So there are some more variables here than we currently have used. We can kind of fake that by making a just a buffer like this, but so we know that there are 32 bytes more that we need on the stack. That's not the way to do it, but we can do it that way. What are we using subweapon for? We're never reading that. Let's fix all these other pad prests. So we have a BC here, which looks like, oh, never mind. Are these all, let's look at the decomp again. I feel like these all should be else ifs. Basically saying like, are these buttons being pressed? Decomp.me didn't write it that way. Let's see what happens if we do. Is that better or worse? So that looks fine. It almost looks like, though, that this is returning. Let's look at where these are going. 8C versus BC. So BC is here on line 45. So yeah, these are all falling down. All right, so 53. There is a miss here. It looks like this might be similar to before, or not. This subweapon pointer is never being set, and that's probably some of the missing stack space. Where we're not getting any of that information. So the sub-weapon pointer is coming from this G status sub-weapon. We don't have our G status variable yet, but we'll get that in a second here. So Dizik is saying on line 42, do we need something that sets A3 to -1? Yes, we do. I'm not too worried about that yet. I'll get to that when I have more of the control structure correct. This looks like, so this is the structure of this is quite a bit different. So this isn't going to be G status. I think we're using where are we getting the sub-weapon from? Is that being read somewhere else that I've missed? Possibly the passed in actual, is that the, no, that's being used as a return value. So we need to figure out what field this is coming from. It actually may not, these are all coming from the same area. Let's just use this for now. It may be managed externally. I'm not sure about that. So this is going to be a sub-weapon def DC. And that gets us a little closer. It does look like it is an array. What are we? V0. V0 is a shifted left version of A3. A3 is a shifted left version of 5. So we're always looking at index 5. That made no difference because that can be calculated. We're loading the immediate value. Oh, so we're doing some math here. This is kind of an artifact of some constant that may or may not actually show up. Anyway, I'll get back to that. Let me get to Dizik's question. How does decomp.me generate code? Yes, even standard types. I actually don't like. So whatever your compiler is, what compiler are you using, and what types? What are the built-in types for that compiler? And so we have a types.h file, and so somewhere in here there'll be a type def for sign 16. Don't call me a liar. I hope it's not a define. No, it's not a define. Type def. uint 16t s16. There we go. So we have type def for sign short s16, and then we have all the standard modern types. So this is GCC 2.6.3, super old. It doesn't have like the built-in standard with types. But it does have char short, etc. And so we can build modern types based on those, and then these Rust style types that are used on a lot of decomp projects. I don't know why we don't just use the C types, but yes, you have to define all of them. Whatever you'd have to define if you were starting a new project. So we have a make target that we call context. You pass in a source file, and I'm actually not sure what this M2 context script does, but you can go to soten.z.dev and go to our GitHub and find the links to all those. Basically, it's like running CPP on some file. So if I What do I need besides include? I'm going to leave it at that. I'm probably going to miss some things, but if I run CPP on B06, the B06 header, that's going to give me, oh, that's what make context does. You get a bunch of stuff in here that you don't necessarily want. And so some macros, it'll remove the definitions of those macros. But this gives you a nice context. It has all the things that you would have if you included this header file. M2 context, that does some cleanup on it. And then we just paste it into the context. So we don't write this by hand, except for maybe the entries at the end that we currently need. All right. Back to this. So unfortunately, we're getting this M2C errors down at the bottom. We're generating the correct code. So GCC is generating the code. SPIM, which is the disassembler, knows what those instructions are. M2C is the one that doesn't know what those instructions are. So we can't round trip this at the moment and see what it would be giving us. Let's look up here at 41. So I feel like we're doing something very similar. No, this is where we're setting our A3. A3, I'm going to call that ret. Here's our -1 definition. And yeah, so this looks like it is maybe duplicated? No. So we're so in 38, this is trying to branch way to the end. But really we should be branching much closer. And then our load is here. Otherwise we're shifting over, what, A3 by 2? Odd. And we don't get any of that from, actually, let's do this. My guess is that this is a return 8. Oh no, it's not. Ret equals 8. Sometimes GCC does things like that where it'll do some math, but no, it's not doing that either. Our branch here is very wrong. 38. Oh. That's better. Are we just falling through? It looks like it. And so now where is our shift? DC and 108, I'm not sure yet if those are approximately the same. They're not. So this subweapon assignment, how the subweapon gets selected may be different between the two. We have a bunch of these that are different. 43. This may be where these may be returns, and let's try this. No. Yeah, so still struggling with whatever is causing the additional shifts down here. Oh, it's not return. It's not return. This is our subweapon. Is that right? Yes. That's what it is. And we're not shifting there. It's just an optimization. Right? Right? Maybe not. It's looking better. All right, so we only have a few things left then to fix. So our return here though is so we need this outside. So this does seem to suggest that we're returning whatever subweapon index is being used. We're getting close. 45. This was an else. We're not. If button 4. So it's pad L1. And you have to remember all of these are like what Richter would be pressing if you were playing as Richter. 43. So there's this shift left here that is getting put in the delay slot and it's just wrong. Get rid of that. That does change this a bit. Maybe this is happening. Maybe it's down here. And it's happening regardless. Nope. Sometimes that happens where GCC will do the calculation twice on both sides of a branch, because it's more efficient to do that. All right, so we're missing a load immediate 2 and a branch to the wrong place. Branch equal to 0. So this branch It's almost like, is this the else if? We need to, yeah, we need, no, ret. So this is, ret is the bad name for this now. Sorry, wrong screen. So we are eventually returning the sub-weapon ID. And we could go over to Richter and see what that sub-weapon ID is. I'm hoping that they are the same. Sorry, I'm looking for... Getting back to the Richter implementation. It's in blueprints. Let's look at rick.h and see if we have sub-weapons. We have them here. So let's make the assumption that these are going to be the same. Same indexes. I don't know that they are. It makes sense, but this code doesn't always make sense. So let's put in sub-weapon values for each of these. The -1, I suppose, makes sense. So we were, the original was returning setting the sub-weapon status and then returning that. If we hit the -1 case, yeah, okay, so I think I have a better idea of what's happening. So I think that this is duplicated, not positive. We don't have a how do we get to the else? We need a way to get to the else. Go back to the decomp of RE3. Where did the -1 come from? Oh, the -1 was just copy pasta from the other side. Ignore that. So ret is going to be sub-weapon ID. And so does it said comment out? I just deleted it. Comment out this line on line 4. I think we need that, but I don't think we need the -1. Oh, and look at this. This is looking much better. So that was a mistake. Sometimes relying on other code makes you worse off because you start thinking in terms of that old code and the constraints that old code has. sometimes starting from the beginning and starting fresh makes sense. The bulk assignment here, that would have been a little tricky to reason about when M2C fails on that. I'm going over to pick up the other pad items, or pad values. That's 4, L2. I don't remember what the L buttons do for Richter. Oh, these might be this might be something else. These aren't matching very well. But also Richter is a... I'm gonna undo those. I don't like how those are looking. My guess is we'll have to come back through and figure out if this is something else and not part of that Rick structure. I made that assumption. It might be a bad assumption. Let's try taking subweapon 4 out here. Does that make a difference? Yep, it does. 41. Still have this odd these odd shifts that I don't quite get. Okay, so the default for the 41 case was 2 and not 4. Let's go back over here and see if we can be helped. Greater than equals, usually not the case. So when we see that, it's a problem. Let's go figure out what this is. I'm going too long. I thought this was going to be simple. So we're going to take that address. First, I'm going to make sure that it's not something that's known otherwise. It is, so it's a player state status. So this is going to be G player. And player status 1 is bat form. All right, so that's something. Our distance and absolute value, that all looked fine. And we're not actually taking the absolute value of distance y, which is a little strange. But I guess that makes sense because you don't have to worry about facing direction. Yeah, so this far, A3 being wrong. Oh, this probably is 4 then. Yeah. Odd. Odd. We'll have to figure out what this pad pressed is as well. I don't think it's that. I went the wrong direction here. 31. This is probably an else if. Or not. Can't have both, so. All right, we're still, there's an opposite, there's an opposite side of this branch that I'm not reasoning about correctly. So if this is not true, What are we getting? Let's put in something wild. Okay, so we can't do that. Is there another mask on V0? Yes, possibly. So we're doing the and I on V0. The result is going back to V0. So that's spoiled. We can't do anything with it. And we're either going to 90. Yeah, which seems like this odd multiplier. And that gets us to the right place, but then there's an additional shift. Oh no, there's not. It's just going in the wrong direction. That's going into V0, then we're in the branch delay slot. We're adding 2. And what happens if we get rid of that add 2? Seemingly nothing. These are backwards. Sorry, trying to figure out what could be the cause of this. Somewhere there is a immediate value of 2 that is being used. Let's try. One more thing. I want to try. Do the shift down there, and what do we get? Not what we want. Okay, so struggling, but we oh shoot, I forked instead of saved. What can we do when we're in a situation like this that is a little difficult? We don't give up. Why would we ever give up? Not ideal. Still need that padding. Of course, we go to the PSP, which tells us all things. I'm going to make the assumption that this is not pad pressed. Otherwise, we have different values here. And what I want to do is take out each of the unique values and find a PSP function that uses those same things. But honestly, I don't have time to do that today. Apologize. We'll come back to that. We'll fix it. We'll get it. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Too long. I'll come back later. Sorry, Supreme Quetzal, I missed your question. Hardest function that you tried to decompile. I just mentioned at the start of the stream, catch it on replay, the sprintf function, sprintf, and I didn't get it. Somebody else did, and that it hurts my heart a little bit. What other hard one? Memcopy. I'll string copy? Is that? Maybe it's string copy. No. Memcomp? Let's try. Or string comp. One of these. Oh, what was it? And move. That was it. Let's. This is deceptively tricky. Come on. You can do it. You can type things in. It seems like the simple, short, easy was not easy at all. There's like a million implementations of that as well. What was my favorite aha moment? Doppelganger, I think. Working on Doppelganger took like 3 months to do. But realizing that not only was it the same as the Alucard code, but it used a virtual control pad, and that we could tap into that control pad and play as Doppelganger. That I think was the most fun. There's the 3D clock tower. I did some streams on that as well. Uses like an embedded script to draw all the polygons. And so you have this little interpreter pulling out this binary data, trying to figure out what shapes to draw. Like just wacky implementation stuff. Instead of just having like an array of shapes. It's a mini DSL for drawing. Bizarre. Anyway, too long. I went too long. I'll be back tomorrow. We're decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Adios.